Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Hollywood Accounting. This ain't your ordinary podcast, folks. I'm Kendall King CPA, but around here, you all can call me the Money Man. And let me tell you, I've been crunching numbers and making those dollars make sense for those in movies, music, sports, gaming, tech, and yeah, even those viral video folks y'all all know and love. Now, don't get twisted. I ain't just your regular bean counter. I'm the architect of financial dreams in the land of flash and cash. From the big screens to the streaming scenes, I've seen it all. From blockbuster budgets to the nitty gritty of a viral TikTok. So here's the deal. Every episode we're diving deep, like submarine deep, into the money magic behind the entertainment madness. We're talking about big movie bucks, concert cash flows, sports team treasures, gaming gold mines, and how content creators stack their paper. And hey, it ain't just me talking at you. We're bringing in heavy hitters, the real movers and shakers, to spill the beans on how they keep their financials in the spotlight and out of the red. But hold up, there's more. We've got the latest and greatest in industry news, insider tips for the aspiring moguls, and because I love y'all, we're answering your burning questions too. Whether you're in the biz, dreaming of the spotlight, or just here for the labs of learning, you're gonna wanna stick around. So let's kick back, crack a smile, and dive into it. Welcome to Hollywood Accounting. All right. Welcome back, everybody. This is Hollywood Accounting, and we're just going to go right into it to see what's been happening in Hollywood. So one thing that I was introduced to, from coming out here into LA and understanding kind of what goes on, right, is that there's a thing called Deadline Contenders event. I don't know if you guys heard about that. I actually had the pleasure of going last year for the first time. I missed it this year, but it just happened this past weekend. And it's like the Super Bowl for movies and TV shows. But obviously, instead of touchdowns, we're talking about the Oscars and the Golden Globes and, all those shiny trophies people in fancy dresses and suits get all excited about, right? And so given that the Oscars are coming up in a few weeks, I felt like this is a pretty good time to just talk about it and, figure out what's going on. But so the deal is that this event is where the big guns come out to play, right? So I'm talking about like studios and creators showing off their latest and greatest, trying to catch the eye of like everybody that shows up so that they can vote on the awards for them. It's like, hey, look at me. I made a movie. I'll make you laugh, cry, and everything in between. I'll give you a trophy. It's all about getting the spotlight. And let me tell you, it ain't just about the bragging rights. So the contender events are also like a great networking event, networking party. I went with a friend of mine. His name is Neil, and he invited me to it. But imagine being in a room with all the big names, actors, directors, producers, people who are on a come up, trying to make it happen. It's where you go to be seen and make connections and talk shop about like the latest trends and making movies and TV shows. And it's just really finding that crowd and, your place and your belonging, right? It's, if you want to bring it to accounting, or corporate, right? It's like one of them happy hours, that we all go to afterwards, something like that, but way, way cooler in my opinion. But here's the kicker. So it's all part of the game plan to win the award. So like this is part of the actual plan and rollout. It's like, let me tell you a story about how we made this movie, the blood, sweat, and the tears that went into it. And all of it is for the hopes of swaying those votes. So it's like it's a strategic way of thinking about it. And, making sure that you're attending these events and, that you have a presence there. So for folks like us, getting a peek behind the curtain at these events is like kind of like attending film school without like tuition fees, right? You can hear and see all about how the world was created, what went on the set, how the characters came to life, the magic of making the green screen into a distant galaxy if you're looking at a space movie, and everything just really what it takes to bring a director's vision to life. It's actually down in LA at the DGA, actually Directors Guild, and they have a nice little setup and everything, for people to to come, and they serve food, lunch, and everything. It's really cool. So, in a nutshell, the Deadline Contenders event is where the magic happens. So it's where the movies and TV shows get their moment to shine, make their case for why they deserve that gold statue, and maybe just leave a mark on the world of entertainment. Who knows? Maybe one day, you'll see me up there, talking about my latest show. I got some big plans with, kind of putting some, accounting and financial money man magic on the movie screens and TV screens. And you might think it's corny now, but wait, just you wait. But keeping focused, this is Hollywood, and this is where the dreams come true. And this particular, event is where this happens. And I bring this up because, these series of gatherings and of industry folks that's organized by Deadline Hollywood. Shout out to them. Their news website, that covers the entertainment industry. One of the top ones. I, growing, through my career, have saw plenty of articles, that is shown and given light over there, and even with Capital Culture, the web website that I have, media website that I own. The goal is to kind of get to the likes of Deadline Hollywood, focusing on more the financial aspects of things, not necessarily the other sides of entertainment, but bringing in that entertainment flair and understanding the financials behind it. So kind of like what I'm doing on this podcast, but just in print form, right? So these events, again, let me get back to the Deadline Contenders events. They're designed to showcase a wide range of films and television shows that are contenders for awards, hit contenders, Deadline contenders, for the annual award season. So again, promotion, visibility, networking, and this discussion, awards, and educational insights, influence on the public. I'm just listing a couple of things that why it's important to be there. And I've gotten several emails. Once you get on their email list, you might, depending on how many times you like emails, you might regret it. But it was definitely helpful just to kind of see what's going on, see what's out there in the space, what's going, what's being shown, Apple, Disney, there's plenty of things that are out there right now. And if you have the time, I just say take a look at it, understand who the nominees are. The Oscars are coming up, and it's just really good to be able to understand what's going on and the background, the back scenes of what's going on. And for me personally, I really like that. I like understanding and seeing that behind the curtain. So shout out to the Deadline Contenders event. Again, how it relates to money, if that needed to be stated, is clearly, they are investing quite a bit of money, time, and energy into, getting the actors to show up, the directors to show up, sponsors, people are sponsoring the event. It takes, a little bit of, organization to be able to get people out there, to, pay for people's food, to, make sure all of it goes the way it needs to go. And so, again, these are the things and decisions that, companies make, because getting those awards, and when the Oscars, come in a few weeks, I'll talk about that as well. But, like I discussed, with the Grammys, is that this is a place where you are on the big stage. And so being on the big stage, being, even nominated for an award like this, kind of just shoots you and puts you in a league of your own, because it doesn't always happen, right? And again, this helps you increase the, your price. Yesterday's price ain't today's price. I'll say it over and over again, shout out to Fat Joe. But the thought is that this recognition allows you to be able to inform on how you're going to be perceived in the market afterwards, right? So if you're showing up and you're getting, nominated for awards like this, and you eventually even win these awards, it's important, but it's also important for people to know, and again, ahead of time, so that they can vote for you, and then afterwards as well. So again, overall, the Deadline Contenders, it plays a significant role in award season, offering, a platform, showcasing, and discussing the merits of various projects. And they continue to broaden the conversation about excellence in the film and television, and can significantly impact the trajectory of these awards campaigns. So again, it's an event that you want to make sure you keep your eyes on and be aware of, and if you can, go to and network. But again, I just really like the background, the back, behind the scenes look of certain things, and this is one of those events where you're talking to the people who are making the movie and who are, who make up Hollywood in itself. So it's a really good, thing to look at. But enough of Deadline. I think one of the I don't know about coolest, but one of the interesting things I had seen, this past week was the lawsuit against Activision Blizzard is their official name. But I'm going to call them Activision. I'm not about to keep saying Blizzard. The lawsuit against Activision involving Call of Duty, the Call of Duty League, esports. Again, you will always hear this from me. I have been a big proponent and the biggest proponent of gaming and esports and the prominence of that going forward. But what happened was, they're getting sued. So Activision is getting sued by a couple of the prominent figures in the Call of Duty space. So Scrump and Hex, they both filed a lawsuit, a joint lawsuit challenging Activision's control over the Call of Duty League. Now, it's alleged that the company's practices stifle fair competition and likens Activision to a big bully for imposing high fees for league participation. Now, just off of that, you might be like, they just crying for no reason, because again, Activision owns Call of Duty. No one is making anybody play Call of Duty. This is their league. This is what they got to do. But when you really think about, when we get into some of these numbers, you'll understand what they're talking about, and it's pretty, pretty high, just say the least. So basically, hey, let me get these numbers. I'm gonna get these numbers right now. So they are pursuing damages up to $680 million. So you can just understand, like, if they're asking for $680 million, the actual amount is probably really insane. But essentially, they're highlighting issues like the exorbitant entry fee. So as part of the league, and I want to read this from the actual. Yeah, so apart from so we're gonna look at this before I tell you how much the entry fees are. I just got to go and list out the process before. I just feel like we got to say the best. This is a kicker. If you don't know, it's insane. If you know it's insane, but it's still really interesting. But so the Call of Duty League, esports league, and other leagues like it. They operate under a structure and franchise-based system. So what that means is that it's a global competition that is broken up into different teams that people are able to franchise a team and take part in the actual league. And, then they win the competition and you go through, right? So in the Call of Duty, it's mostly Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 when we look at the 2024 season. But it's basically organized in like 4 main stages. The majors is, the main thing is what it's called. And so with each major preceded by some type of online qualifying period. And these qualifiers and majors are integral to the league's competitive structure. So determining the seeding and points for teams throughout the season. So you have to go through those qualifiers and those majors to be able to, eventually, get your grand prize and win. But the specific eligibility rules for entering the Call of Duty League and tournaments, they got age requirements, team composition, and other participation like criteria, which is all detailed on the Call of Duty League website. So I ain't, just saying that out of nowhere, but if you got some time, you can read it over. But generally, the rules encompass, again, the age restrictions, the residency requirements, professional status, team affiliations, and it's a professional league. And Teams that compete are often franchised, like I mentioned, meaning that the players typically need to be signed by these organizations to participate in league official events. So I can't just, get my team of, friends who play Call of Duty and like, yo, we about to just enter into this tournament and, we about to see if we can make, we can win. We think we good. Even if we are the best Call of Duty players in the world, if we're not franchised with a team, then it doesn't matter, so you can't get in there. And owning a franchise in the Call of Duty League reportedly costs this is one amount I've seen, but another amount was a little higher. I'll say both. But apparently the cost to just have a team is $25 million. Let me just pause. 25 million. Another number I saw was 27.5, and I think that's what they included in their lawsuit. But the franchise fee aligns, this is the thought process. It aligns with the cost range of other major esports leagues like Overwatch, but again, Activision on some of these other leagues as well. So like, you really comparing to the market and you think about it, they are the market, which is kind of the point of this lawsuit. So obviously you see the significant investment that goes into what they got going on, but it's huge. So back to lawsuit. So they're pursuing damages up to $680 million, highlighting issues like the large entry fees, restrictions on securing sponsorships. They can't, they're controlling on who you can, bring into the league, how you are able to secure, the money that you're backing, and limitations on tournament participation. Activision has denied these claims, asserting that the lawsuit is baseless and disruptive to the esports community. And the company emphasized its investment in the Call of Duty League's success and its commitment to defending against these allegations. So more back on the sponsorship, because again, I'm a big guy in the sponsorships and partnership space as far as like what I do and what I like to do. So basically, they're limiting who you can work with. If I had a brand that, really wanted to, get into the league or like have their brand shown throughout there and I had a team, that still has to go through, Activision's internal processes and they have to tell me that, this is good or not, and so with that being said, it quite much like, it's a problem when it limits what you can do and how you can do it. So that's what sucks. And then there was also things of like, the profile of the teams themselves. Like, there was a problem where, I think it was Hex, but one of the plaintiffs in the lawsuit were, claiming that they couldn't, even though they were able to get the money or, or whatever to get the team, they still had to partner themselves up with another entity or another person in order to fit the right mold or the right profile for Activision to accept them into the league, which obviously, you got to get into bed with other partners and everything like that, which makes things a lot more complicated than it needs to be. Now, saying all this, but when you really think about it again, Call of Duty is owned by Activision. Nobody is, making nobody do anything. But one thing that is good to mention is that in a separate but related matter, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a civil antitrust lawsuit against Activision, accusing the company of anti-competitive practices in its esports leagues for Overwatch and Call of Duty. This one was more so focused on that the lawsuit was like, on the competitive balance tax that allegedly penalized teams for paying players above a certain threshold. So like a salary cap, essentially. But, the DOJ said that that's anti-competitive. Activision subbed this lawsuit the same day it was filed. It was like, hey, look, we ain't trying to, drag this thing out. Let's settle this real quick. And that, agreeing to a settlement that would prevent the company from imposing caps or limits on salaries of esports players or teams. And the settlement aims to ensure that professional esports have the benefits of competition for their services, reflecting a broader focus by the antitrust division to address labor market abuses across various industries. So basically the antitrust situation that was here was that Activision was controlling how much esports players could actually get paid, and not necessarily controlling it, but obviously penalizing it for going over and above a certain threshold. There are many thoughts as to why they may have done that in the past. Clearly, it's all about a level of control, right? And they have their own specific way they would like to do and handle their business. So, but all in all, these legal battles like really show the ongoing concerns regarding the governance and the operation of esports leagues, particularly those controlled by like game publishers such as Activision, and highlight the tension between maintaining that competitive balance and ensuring fair opportunities for players and teams that are growing in this rapid sector. So let's get down into the lawsuit, because off the top of it, right, you would think that Activision Blizzard, their exclusive operation of Call of Duty League, it doesn't really constitute a monopoly in the traditional sense, when you look at antitrust law, right? Because in the context of intellectual property, including video games, which is, what we're talking about right now, the owner has exclusive rights to use, modify, and license their property. This exclusivity includes the right to organize official leagues or competitions. Now, while it limits third-party leagues without permission, it's a standard practice across entertainment and software industries to protect their own IP and brand integrity. So it's not, and when you think about it off the top, it's not really an antitrust issue, but more of like a branding and, control. So, but with that being said, when it grows to such a popular, sport, and it takes up so much of the space, you begin to wonder, it's like, man, is this a monopoly, right? So in other words, if I created a game right now, right, and I had a league of that had players compete to be the top, at the base of it is my game. I control the rights. I do the league. And I just got, 10 people showing up and playing. Ain't nobody gonna care about that, right? But when you grow it to such a level where it's just like being in this Call of Duty, phase is, in the league is like, this is the esports, league. It starts begging the question of, are you now, should you be, doing this a little differently, And so that's what the the plaintiffs in this, lawsuit are thinking about. So let's look at the merits of the lawsuit. So the merit of the antitrust concerns of the monopolistic behavior, right? That monopolistic behavior of being able to only be the ones that have Call of Duty leagues, again, that does technically fall under antitrust, concerns. Again, we just talked about that they own that product is private. They own the rights to it. So it's a little different. But I mean, let's think about it. That is technically, merit to it, even off the face of value. The claims about the high entry fees, I alone would probably judge against that, because I'm like, golly, not 27 million just to be a part of, it's just an entry fee. And then the restrictions on sponsorship opportunities, that's, pretty insane. Obviously, I understand, again, brand integrity, making sure certain, things aren't getting in. But if that doesn't have a solid policy around it, I think you could, the plaintiffs could really have a case with that. And kind of what I mean about that is, like, if the sponsors that they're trying to keep out, represent maybe something that's hateful or something that is not kid friendly, adult related stuff. We get that. We ain't on your head on that. But if it's some other stuff, it's like, how do you really support, the decisions you make to restrict certain sponsors to come in or not? So that's the question. And could that be a slippery slope of like, are they, you're trying to just use it so that you can get a cut of it? Like, again, I don't know if that's the case, but I can see how that slippery slope can happen if there's not a, documented understanding of how you should be going about it. And then, another merit is technically, what, previous settlements have, right? So they previously, settled on something where it was more of this anti-competitive, antitrust situation. So it might also, kind of lend itself to, will they, the similar situation of just settling it happen. Now, again, settlement is not an admission of guilt by any means. It's just a way to just get rid of any prolonged litigation. However, obviously, it's going to be something to consider. So, in my mind, I think there's three courses of actions. Right? It's usually in any case, right? You can settle, go to court, or it just gets dismissed. So let's look at, we've been talking about settlement for a minute, so let's look at that, right? So given Activision's recent history of settling a lawsuit, there's a possibility that they might just choose to settle and get this done and over with. But they did specifically say that these are baseless claims, so who knows? Maybe they decide to, keep pushing this out. But I just don't think, just in my opinion, some of the biggest names in your league are shouting out and they're getting some rally support behind it. So beyond just the, actual look of it, you might end up in a situation where the people who are making up your league are, boycotting or not showing up to actually participate in these competitions. And so you might just be putting yourself at a loss. My course of action is always to find a way where both parties can feel like they are being respected and heard and has a solution. So, settlement could be the best way to go if they want to preserve and move forward, without too much disruption. But, if they say, look, we 10 toes, they stand on business, you can go to court, right? And if it goes to court, the outcome really is going to depend on how the evidence is presented on both sides and the legal arguments, regarding antitrust law and how it's applied to esports. Again, esports is a new, industry, relatively new industry. Not a lot of precedence has been established. And so, this actual trial, if it goes through, could, set those precedents. But right now, again, it's really just who's going to have the best argument. And then it could be dismissed. There's also a chance that, the court looks at this and is like, yeah, nah, we ain't taking this nowhere. Y'all tripping. So that's definitely a possibility. I think, again, I don't know, but at this stage, and just the rally behind it, I don't think a dismissal would happen. But who knows? I think the thing that's most likely is that they will settle. And I think, honestly, that's probably the best course of action. But the thing to mention, though, I will say, just on Activision side, is that apparently, the plaintiffs tried to talk to them before and were asking for, some more money. And in Activision's, words, not quoting it, but basically they were like, y'all trying to shake us down, and nah, we ain't just about to give you that. You're gonna have to earn what you get. And so basically it's like, all right, bet we about to take it there. So essentially they wanted some money ahead of time, before they filed a lawsuit, and kind of threatened apparently this lawsuit if they didn't pay, and clearly they didn't pay, so the lawsuit came. Again, this is just from what I've read in the Activision's response to the lawsuit. But to wrap it all up, the lawsuit raises a lot of questions about the balance between the league operators' right to govern its own competition and the antitrust laws that are designed to promote fair competition and prevent monopolistic practices. So, given the complexities of antitrust law, I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice or anything like that. Just had to get that disclaimer out there. But, just given the complexities of the laws and the evolving nature of the esports industry, the lawsuit's outcome can have a broad, impact and implications for how esports leagues are structured and operate going forward. So this actually could be very monumental in, the way that it goes down. And again, if I had to speculate, I suggest settlement, the most plausible outcome. Again, hopefully both sides, get a little, lose a little, and, we're able to move forward in the industry and be able to continue growing it to what it needs to be. But, man, I just found it really interesting. So I had to talk about it. Another thing that was pretty interesting this past week, or I should say the comparison I'm about to make is pretty interesting because the actual event has been pretty not interesting over the years, and I say that in the best way possible. And I think even the critics, even the people in the games and the people in that space are also saying the same thing. But we got to talk about the NBA All-Star weekend and All-Star game, right? So when you think about the NBA All-Star game, first let's talk about that. So the game itself has evolved significantly over the years, right? So not just in terms of the gameplay and the format, but also in the success and viewership metrics, which I'm kind of talking about right now. But essentially, it was first held back in 1951, and it conceived as a showcase for the league's top talent. Obviously, you want to be able to, see your favorite players all play against each other. It was definitely a, team up power moment, and significantly, boosted, attendance, in those initial games. Over the years, the format of the game has been, changing. Initially, the game was, East versus West. Then it went to team captains. Then it was the Elam ending, where you were, setting targets instead of just letting, time run to further enhance competitiveness. And then, what we've seen is now is back to the East and West. And so they've changed a lot throughout. And then also they've, obviously made it a whole weekend where the dunk contest and the 3-point contest. This year they did something new with Steph versus Sabrina, the NBA versus WNBA, 3-point contest as well. And so, there's different things that they created. And all throughout the weekend and the week itself, again, they had events similarly like the NFL with the Super Bowl. The difference with the Super Bowl and the NBA All-Star game clearly is a huge difference. Way more people tune into the NFL. Super Bowl mainly a lot. I don't say mainly, but a lot of the reason for the halftime show, they found a way to make it. People come to see this game for more than just the game itself. And again, they've had their bumps and everything as well over the years, but they've really done a great job of keeping the game itself very, high on the viewership. And so in All-Star game history, a notable highlight was in 2010. It set an attendance record. And I'm looking here, basketball game, about 108,000 people at the Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas. And it really demonstrated the massive appeal and financial potential of the event. And, hosting the All-Star game has become a significant, business, and so there's a lot of cities that bid for it. They built new arenas for it. This, time, this time it's back in Indianapolis. Not the best place in the world to bring fun and everything. Not like Vegas, but, they made it around. And so, there's a lot of people obviously who wants to, it benefits, anytime you have these types of events and bring it to a city, obviously you're bringing a lot to the city. And so despite all these innovations though, and the event's prestige, which is almost akin again to the NFL Super Bowl, there's been a significant decline in viewership over the years. And, I think we can understand that, it's just because it's something's missing. Something is missing. Like the NBA, players in the game itself, really kind of take it as a, it's a fun thing, entertaining. In my mind, when I think about it, getting the top players together, we should be seeing the very best, pickup game that we've ever seen type thing. But realistically, understanding that no one wants to get hurt in this particular game that messes up everything else. So we understand that. And again, I am not an NBA player. I will not, pretend to understand the intricacies of being one and having to manage in politics and everything like that. But as a consumer, again, we do want to be able to see the highest level of competition here. We want to see people really playing their heart out. And winning and just seeing it's if I put my prime time team up, put them together, the best of the best. And, you would want to see the best of the best game, so that's kind of the thought, right? And I think that's one of the main reasons why, it hasn't really been successful. Now, enter the NBA in-season tournament. So this is something that they just introduced last year, which marked a significant evolution in the league's competitive structure, right? And it brought so much excitement and engagement within the regular season, and it was really great. And again, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the change in the format. People did play their heart out, and the tournament itself included all 30 teams, so not just the best of the best, but all 30 of them. And, really culminated into a championship team and had a few different layers of, competitive intensity, mainly because of the money and how it was structured, right? So teams were grouped based on their previous season standings and competed in a format that combined group play with knockout rounds, which led to a champion being crowned, sorry. And the tournament offers substantial financial incentives for players. It's like everybody on the winning team receiving $500,000 each. The runners-up receiving $200K, and players on the losing teams each receiving $100K. So clearly, money is making people move, and that's why the in-season tournament was so successful. Again, obviously, I haven't really put out any good metrics yet that I can really see, but it was significantly successful. Especially when you compare it to it being the first of its kind, and that the All-Star game, didn't really see that same type of, love. But one of the highlights was the Sacramento Kings versus the Golden State Warriors game, which became the most watched in-season game tournament, according to, this, here. And it attracted about 2 million viewers, which here it says a 93% increase compared to the previous season's equivalent window. And overall, group play games averaged 1.5 viewers, a 26% increase from last season. The tournament also set a record for the highest average attendance in November, with 18,206, and saw a 25% in watch time on NBA League Pass during, the group play nights. So it not only provided this new competitive highlight within the season, but also significantly enhanced fan engagement and viewership, indicating, very promising future for such events going forward. And when you compare it to the, All-Star Games history and evolution, several key aspects I think kind of really show itself. Obviously, engagement, viewership, and overall impact. And, we can really sum this up at the end of the day with the fact that money made the people move. You don't want to put so much on the line and not be able to get, something from it. And, they had different, courts, different jerseys. It just felt new. It felt fun. It felt different. And even with to the All-Star Games credit, again, they used the LED, floor as well. And that was pretty cool, really showing that this is something new and something separate. But at the end of the day, something needs to be done on getting the All-Star game back to to its former glory, and then even getting it to the likes of the NBA, the NFL, the Super Bowl. So, in my opinion, some ways you can enhance the success is, again, obviously increasing and changing up the competitive elements of it. Maybe even increasing, maybe some more interactive fan participation. Beyond just voting, but maybe doing some more challenges or some matchups, some type of more fan engagement and participation, I think would be useful. Obviously, the money as well, increasing in enticing people when it comes to money, changing the formats, maybe doing a little bit better with the storytelling and the advertising as well. And making a better viewing experience. Now in this day and age, we have access to all this new technology. Maybe it's a good idea to utilize that somehow to increase it. Again, I really said myself that the LED floor was great. I enjoyed it. It wasn't too much for me, but that's a big thing. I think also leveraging social media, going back to advertising, and focusing on understanding what the wave is right now, which are content creators, and partnering with them to help boost the All-Star game. Honestly, the most coverage that I seen from the All-Star game was about Kai. Kai Cenat, who is a Twitch streamer, and he got more coverage than the game itself. Just by being in the celebrity match. He was also a part of Jaylen Brown's dunk. He was sitting in a chair, which is funny. And even after that, he was brought up again with Shannon Sharpe, and and it just continues. So honestly, he's one of the biggest winners as far as viewership and being a part of that narrative. So you can just see how powerful it was to have him and his and as a content creator within the event. So if you can just be a little bit more strategic with that and the in-season tournament, I think that the NBA could really capitalize on that. But that's my opinion. Again, it was great to have it and to witness it, and I just think that changing a few things might help with seeing some more financial success from that. Because again, if you're increasing viewers, that means you can increase the amount of money you're charging for ads. You look a lot more attractive when you're setting your prices and going out into the market to find sponsors and people who want to market at your event and everything. So that's the big thing. For that, I think again, that's just going back and forth. But for moving into music, I wanted to also mention something that I saw that I was a little bit, it was like, at first sight, because I'm always about ownership and keeping, control and keeping your equity. But you know what? This, when you dive into the deal a little bit more, maybe it was a smart move. So the Michael Jackson estate sold 50% stake in his music catalog to Sony Music. It was a landmark deal valued at over $1.2 billion. You can definitely see this. I have this story. My team put the story up on Capital Culture, so you'll be able to see the full story here. So I won't say the full story. I'm just going to highlight the major points, but and understanding maybe if this was a good decision or not. But essentially, they gave up 150% of the stake in a landmark deal that was, reportedly valued at over $1.2 billion with the B. And the deal encompasses both the publishing and recorded masters, making it one of the largest transactions for a single artist's assets in history. And I mean, this is Michael Jackson, so not really surprised. And so it's estimated that Sony will pay at least $600 million for a share, with the potential for the valuation to rise as high as $1.5 billion, according to Billboard. And significant sale underscores the enduring value and legacy of Michael Jackson. So was this a good deal? When you think about it, I honestly, when I first saw it, I didn't see the 50% stake. So I just thought they sold everything. I was like, oh no, why? But obviously you see the numbers. It's like, it is what it is. That's a lot of money. But let's look into the factors that consider this being a good deal or not. Because I think the major thing that I think of when I think about it is, yeah, they can have the asset, but if you own the asset and don't know how to, truly monetize it, like what's the point of having it? So let's go into some factors to see if this was what could be a good deal or not. So clearly the financial value of it, the valuation of being 1.2 billion, sorry. Again, the highest, type of, situations, type of deal ever. So for the estate, obviously this provides a lot of liquidity and an immediate capital influx. So who knows what's going on with the estate and what they might need to keep everything up and the families. But it could be really a good thing to, if they have any outstanding debts, if they want to, use that money to do any new business ventures or, philanthropic efforts. So, again, that upfront money is something that they can use to potentially do something else with, right? Assuming it's all not just going just to live, and, you're using it to make more money, right? So then you got the market timing. The music rights market has seen a surge in valuations, and a lot of different high profile deals, have been, been happening and selling. So at a time now when you're doing it when the market is strong, get you that higher valuation, it's ingenious. It's good because now you're able to get the highest value that you can. Obviously, akin it to you want to sell it when it's hot, right? Sell up, not when it's down. So the partnership. Now, the big thing, again, like I'm going back to is that it's only 50-50, right? It's 50%. So Sony now has, they paid the money, but now they have an invested interest to make sure that they're doing the best that they can to make the most money off of this deal. So what that means is having Sony Music, which is a huge player in the music scene, having their global reach and expertise in music rights management, it may help with maximizing the catalog's like earning potential going forward, right? So before, if you didn't have Sony on your side, who knows how much money you could actually get from, having, ownership of Michael Jackson's catalog. But now that you have somebody in the game who knows the game and one of the big players in the game, they can do what they can, what they do best, and monetize that the best way possible. And that's what one of my first thoughts was. It's like, all right, well, if it's 50-50 and they own it together, then that's great. Now, another thing you got to think about is legacy preservation, right? Is Sony going to be doing the best for Jackson, Michael Jackson's legacy, or they just trying to do it to make money? So that is something to consider. Risk management as well. By selling a portion of the rights, you're diversifying your risk. So obviously music industry revenues can fluctuate. So getting that large sum of money and putting it somewhere else, like I mentioned, is a potential way to, diversify. And then, again, overall, who knows what's going on with the estate and the beneficiaries and what's, who needs what. So the potential downsides is, you might be losing on your long-term revenue by reducing your stake. And then also you get this partner now. You don't have the same level of decision making as you had before, which obviously could lead to disagreements. And like I mentioned about the legacy, it might not line up with what, the estate has, for their preference on how, Michael Jackson legacy is. So ultimately, I guess we'll see if it was a good decision, when we think about the estate's objectives and, their financial needs and long-term strategy for managing, Michael Jackson's legacy. I'm about to say MJ, Michael J. But given the deal size and parties, it appears to be, well considered. Again, I think that, when you talk about this amount of money, this ain't just no accident. So there's definitely some thought that went into it. So just hoping for the best that was a great decision and looking forward to, what's to come of it. Definitely as it evolves, I'll make sure to cover it. But I just wanted to at least hash out, at the beginning, because a lot of people out of nowhere just hearing the news is just like, man, they just selling their stuff. We got to have ownership and generational wealth and blah, 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 blah. And again, I'm saying blah, 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 just because I didn't know another word to say. Not that, I'm minimizing what they're saying because it's valid points. But to that point, owning an asset and not knowing how to monetize it, that does not help with generational wealth. So you need to be able to have the financial and business acumen to grow an asset and allow it to, bring you more money. And so this partnership could potentially do that. Obviously, there's thoughts of protecting integrity and legacy. So, just looking forward to see what happens. So those are the things that I saw this past week that interest me. And, you're probably tired of hearing my voice by now. So I'll close with that. Thank you for, tuning in for another episode of Hollywood Accounting. And, look forward to seeing you guys next week.